Good morning, everyone. Hello, everybody. Let me make sure that my intro is not going to play over here. Welcome back to Adobe Live. My name is Voodoo Val, and I'm going to be your host this morning for a brand new installation of the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge. I'm super pumped for today, and I don't want to waste any time because I've got a lot that I want to cover. So first of all, I'm going to go over how you folks in chat can get involved in the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge with me, how you can participate, where you can get your assets, and how you can share your work with me and the rest of the community. Ted, hello, it's good to see you. Muhammad, Danielle, Michelle, Annie, Mayan, Francis, Judith, it's good to see all of you folks. Anna, hello. Sam Peterson, my friend, it's good to see you. So yeah, without further ado, let me pop over. I'm going to show you where the landing page is, and we're just going to get right into it. Let me bump this over right here, pull up my page, and I'm going to swap right over here. Where's it at? There we go. Hold on, sorry. There we go. So, I've pulled up the landing page, and this is behance.net/challenge/Photoshop. If you folks would like to participate in the challenge, you'll need to jump over to this page to get all of your assets. Every morning, we release a challenge to you at about 8 a.m. Pacific time, and you can see if I scroll down here, we actually have all of the challenges locked except for the current day, and as the days go on, you'll see that the previous days are unlocked. Today, we're going to be doing a little bit of logo design. It says design a logo for a fictional brand using shapes, puppet warp, clipping masks, and gradient maps, which I'm super excited about. And thank you, Sam Peterson, for posting the link there. Register for the challenge here, plus the link so you folks in chat can get to that. If you're over on YouTube, please remember to come over to behance.net/live because that is where all the assets are being shared, and it is also where I am reading the chat and all of that good stuff for the whole day. So if you're just watching the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge now, and you might want to stick around for any of the awesome segments coming up after me, the Behance chat is the main chat, so that's where you'll need to be. Logos in Photoshop. Oh yes, I know some of you folks are big Illustrator folks, so you might not be using Photoshop for designing logos, but we're going to do that here today. All right, so today, like I said, we have the logo design challenge ready for you. There is a watch video button, so if you need to come back and watch me do the challenge again and kind of review what I went over, or maybe you can't stay here for the whole stream, but you know you'll have time later, definitely come back, hit that button, and it'll bring you to this VOD, this stream, this archived broadcast. And you can also hit the Get Started button. If I click this right here, it'll bring you to a Dropbox where you can download the challenge file, starter file that I have created for you. And also it's got like a little spiel here on how everything works. Like I said, each day you receive a challenge. You can join the community chat here on Behance or in the Discord to communicate with other folks, get some feedback on your work. And that is also where you will have to post your challenge entry if you want your entries to be reviewed during our Photoshop and design segments this week. So yeah, if you want a little shout out on stream, that's where you got to put things. Like I said before, watch the daily show or come back and hit that watch button if you miss the stream, and get some feedback from your peers. So that is how you do that. I'm going to quickly pull up the Discord as well just to show it off real quick. Let me pull this up because I want to make sure that you folks also know exactly where in the Discord to post your work, because sometimes folks get a little bit lost, a little bit turned around in there, and I want to make sure that we're all going to the same place. So right here, this is our Discord. And if you look through, you can see I have got my Adobe Photoshop channel selected here on the side. And if I scroll down to the current challenge page, you'll see this is where people are posting their challenge entries, and they look so great. So after you finish your challenge for today, please post it, because in the segment coming up after me, people are going to be reviewing them. And also, I really want to see them and see what you folks are working on and how you interpret the challenges. So without further ado, let's jump into what we've got planned today, because I want to make sure that we have all the time we need to complete the project. I have my starter file opened in my Photoshop already, so that I don't have to wait for everything to be loaded and stuff. And you'll see it just says challenge number 1, design a logo for a fictional brand using shapes, puppet warp, clipping masks, and gradient maps, as I said on the challenge landing page. Yes, you can also make challenge channel folders on Discord. Alexander is absolutely right. Lori says, I'm excited to see this, perfect timing. Oh, I'm so happy. So just a quick little overview of the challenges we're doing. This Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge run only goes for 5 days because we are going to be on a week-long break next week. So we've got 5 challenges, and all of those challenges are going to be based around branding. We're going to be working with images, either changing image colors and learning how to make little inserts for packages. We're going to be creating mock-ups from scratch. We're going to be creating logos, and we're going to also be creating templates and things that you can use either for informational purposes on products, or even things that can be used for templates on Instagram and Twitter. So the first one is logos, but I want everyone to choose maybe an existing brand, maybe a fictional brand, or you guys could even use this as an opportunity to do some branding for your own brand. I'm currently going to be doing branding for a tabletop dice product line. That's what I'm going to do, because you guys know I'm a nerd. I love playing Dungeons and Dragons, and I thought this would be super fun. So I've got kind of a D20 die shape here, and I'm going to show you how I made it. For those of you who are unfamiliar with tabletop dice, D20s are the large circular dice that have 20 different sides that people typically use for keeping track of your health and life in a Magic the Gathering game, or rolling for points and things in Dungeons and Dragons. It could probably be used for other things too, but that is what we are working off of today for our concept. I will be enjoying these 5 days. I'm so happy, Beatrice. Ronald McDaniel, welcome to the chat. I almost read that as Ronald McDonald, and it made me super hungry. I'm happy you're here with us today. Thanks for popping in. You're a nerd too? Awesome, Mia. Then you will love this. So in the files here, you'll see I've got my little folder up here. I'm actually going to make my webcam a little bit smaller because I notice I am pretty large in the corner here. So maybe I'll make myself teeny tiny, and bump myself to the corner there so you folks can see a little bit better. I'm going to hide my info tab here because this group of things is literally just the text. I grouped it all together so that you folks can hide them easily and just get all the text out of there. You can even delete it if you want. It's really not necessary. In the shapes folder, you'll see I have actually a bunch of different shapes. I've got diamond shapes and rectangle shapes all put together to create this D20 kind of thing going on here. And all I did for this, if I hide it, is I came over here in my left hand side. I've got a little tool here that is my shape tool, and if I grab a rounded rectangle, you can use any shapes for this depending on what exactly you're going to be creating, but what I did is I drew a square. I'm going to hold shift because if I hold shift it keeps that aspect ratio for me. I'm going to let that go. My little properties panel pops up here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that back to a gray color. Yo, happy Monday, Chad. Good to see you. Ariana, yes, logo design, welcome in. So I'm going to change that to a gray color. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control-T, Control-Command on a Mac if you're using a Mac. And I'm going to rotate this holding Shift, because if I rotate, I pressed R on my keyboard to access the rotate. Or excuse me, I'm in free transform, so if you hover outside of your item, it will give you the rotate. If I was not free transforming something and I needed to rotate my canvas, for example, I would press R. But here I've hovered outside until I got my little double arrows here, and I've rotated holding shift so that it kind of snaps around. Now I've got like a perfect diamond shape, but what I also want to do is I want to kind of squish this a little bit. So if I hit enter, and place this. I want to, yes, place this. And then I hit Control T again. You'll notice that it actually gives me my transform box around everything in a square again. But since I've got a diamond here, it allows me to just bump it up like that. That works for me. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Enter. And I'm going to say Control J to duplicate. You'll notice it gives me a rounded rectangle 1 copy over here. I'm going to hit Control T to free transform, and I'm going to drag this down. If you go to drag something around and you notice that it kind of drags things all over the place, all you have to do is make sure that you're holding Shift when you drag, because it will actually keep it on a path that is perfectly in line with the position it was when you pulled it down. So I'm going to say, okay. So now I have these two diamonds. You can kind of see my shape coming together here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to still, with my rounded rectangle tool, I'm going to come from this corner over here, and I'm going to drag a new rectangle down into this corner. Boom. Now, depending on how much time you have, this may take a little finagling to kind of get things in the proper order. I typically zoom in a little bit, and I will grab like my move tool, and I'll move this around. I can see that it gave me my little guideline that bumped that perfectly with this edge. And if I use my arrows, I can start to really align this properly. I think that's good enough for me for now. Normally I would spend more time on it, but we do have limited time today, so I'm going to leave it at that. And I'm going to group all of my layers together. And the way I'm doing that is I'm selecting my topmost layer, I'm holding Shift, and I'm selecting the bottommost layer that I want in my group. If you had a bunch of layers out of order and you don't want to select everything in between, the way that you could also do this is select a layer, hold Control, and then select layers out of order and group those together. But since they're all in a row, this works fine. I can just select them all and hit Control G. Boom. Why not use the polygon tool and enter 6 corners? You totally could, Martin. I think I have already done polygon tools in previous challenges, so my goal is just to show that there's a lot of different ways that you can do the same thing to give everybody options and maybe show them the use of tools that they might be more comfortable with as time goes on. So if you would like to use the polygon tool, feel free. Now that I have this, I can actually free transform and, drag this all around together. Another thing that I can do, which I'm actually going to use, is I'm going to right-click this group, and I'm going to say Convert to Smart Object. And at any time I want, after I've been editing this, I can actually right-click and I can get the layers back. I can convert to layers right back into my group, and it will have all of my layers back. But for now, I do want a smart object. Now, I want to make an outline of this shape. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to double click my layer and I'm going to put a stroke on it. And I know that some people don't like strokes, but I like strokes for this current project. This works for me, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to the fill. Actually, let's spend a little more time with the stroke, because I have my stroke set to default settings, but I want to make sure everybody's familiar with what's in here. When I go to the stroke panel, you can see I can change my size to be thinner or thicker, depending on what I want. I can also change the position. So right now, the stroke is applying to my shape from the outside of the shape. I could also set it to inside the shape. You'll see how it changes and everything's a little pointier around there. But I can also change it to center, which means from the very edge of my shape, it applies the stroke to the inside and outside at the same time, which is also very useful depending on what project you are working on. I'm going to keep mine outside for now because that's my personal preference, but I could also turn this onto a blending mode if I want it to interact differently with my background, if I had something in the background. And you could also turn this on a blending mode and have it interact with the texture or colors that you actually have on the inside of your shape if you had your position set to inside, which can be cool. You can change the opacity of that stroke, and you can also change the color. There's a lot of really cool things that you can do in here, but I'm going to leave it like this because that works for me, and I'm going to hit OK. And then if I come in here and I change the fill, I can actually turn my shape completely transparent so that I actually have a transparent shape just like this. I think somebody says, what is the use of a smart layer? A smart layer is nice to use. It changes it into a smart object so that I'm working non-destructively. As you'll notice here, because it is a smart layer, I have a list of effects that I can turn on and off. And as I apply more and more things to this, they will rack up here and allow me to always go back to the original version of whatever's on that layer. If I was working with a pixel layer, I could apply all kinds of stuff when I start adding like blending modes and adjustment layers. While on a regular layer, you may see some of the regular effects. All the adjustment layers, if I were to add a gradient map or anything like that to my shape, they would just be applying to that layer and that's it, and I would never be able to revert back unless I did Control Z X amount of times to get back to it. This allows me to always have a version of what's on my layer in its original form, so if I decide I really am not feeling what I've done to it, I can always go back. Did I burn my eyelids? No, I just have orange. I was trying to be fancy because I got orange in my top today. I thought you would like it, Darius! Still trying to make a diamond. Well, Ronald, you can always go back and watch the video if you need help keeping up or you need to just watch it again. You can see where it's going. Awesome. I'm so glad. So now that I have my little outline here and I like what I've got going, I can add whatever I want to this logo shape. I thought it would be really cool to add a kind of eyeball into the center of this to kind of go with the magical RPG fantasy kind of vibe. If you're not making a D20 RPG tabletop die kind of logo, you don't have to copy me exactly, or if it helps you to do exactly what I do, then feel free to follow along with this next bit. But I'm just gonna start messing around and creating things. So I'm gonna make a new shape in here. I'm gonna go grab my ellipse tool. You notice I right clicked my shape layer or my shape tool here. And when I right click, because it's got this little arrow in the corner of my tool, I know that there's more options. And I have the, if I move my head here, I've got the rectangle tool, rounded rectangle tool, ellipse tool, polygon tool, line tool, and custom shape tool. So you guys can choose any of these, whichever you feel is best for your project. Like I said, I'm gonna switch now to the ellipse tool. And I'm going to drag out kind of an oval shape. I don't think I'm gonna make a perfect circle. I think I'm gonna do something like this. And I've got my guides on so I can pretty much position it in the center like so. If your guides are not on and you would like for them to be, all you have to do, I believe, is come up here to view. Let me make sure I'm in the right place. Maybe it's in window. I think you can turn your grids on. Let me see. Let me see. Oh, you can go through your screen modes here. Excellent. You should be able to pull down guides from the top or to turn your grid on. Let me see if I can do this. We did just get an update. It's possible that it's moved, but I don't think so. Let me see. You know what? I think maybe I will post a screenshot of how to do that in the Discord later, because I don't want to look through my folders and files and things and try to figure out how to do that now when we have to finish our logo. So if you're wondering how to put the guides on, I will make sure that that is in the Discord for you. In view, yeah, I thought it was view. I was sure. View, show. Yes, you're right. Okay, smart guides. Perfect. Thank you. Help from the chat. I appreciate it. So yeah, if you go to view, show, and you hit smart guides, then you will have your smart guides on. So I'm going to do the same thing I did to my die shape here with my ellipse tool. So I'm going to double click here. I'm going to turn my stroke on. I'm going to say okay. And then I'm going to turn the fill down. Well, actually, for this one, I don't think I'm going to turn the fill down, and I'm going to show you why. I'm going to make sure, let me see if I can turn the color of this to like a light gray. It's up to you if you want your logo to only be lines or if you want some variation in value. It really depends on what you're doing for your project. But now that I have like this little base color for an eye, I'm going to start using some clipping masks. made a new layer with Control-Shift-N. I'm going to right click and I'm going to say create clipping mask, and you guys know this is one of my favorite things to do. Basically, a clipping mask allows me to make things on a layer and apply it only to the borders of the layer that is just under it. So now I can come in and add some really cool designs. Like if I wanted to use a brush, I just hit B on my keyboard to access my brush. If I wanted to add color or shapes, it will only adhere to this ellipse that it's pointing to directly under, which is cool. But I'm gonna grab my pen tool by hitting P on the keyboard, and I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna start making some interesting shapes. Oops, not on my ellipse layer. Make a new layer. I'm gonna start making some interesting shapes here. And this is totally up to you what you do. I kind of want to make like a crazy eye, and I know I only have a limited amount of time to kind of do this and show all of you folks how I'm doing it, but never fear, I'm about to Martha Stewart you, because I did do this ahead of time just in case. So now I've made this layer. I'm gonna leave it green, even though I would make it black and white for logo purposes. But for now, I'm gonna right click this now that I've made my weird little shape. I'm gonna say create clipping mask, and boom, it's only in the borders of my eyeball right there. So I can come around and I can make, maybe I want like a brighter color and I want to start adding some shine. You know, maybe I'll do something like this. And I'm going to hit shape up here to make that a shape. I'm going to also make this a clipping mask. And I can sort of go through here and start making some really interesting shapes to kind of create this cool eye. And I'm going to do one more shape. I kind of like the idea of it being like a kraken's eye, you know, so something with like a wide pupil instead of a rounded pupil. And the way that I'm doing this, by the way, if some of you are not as familiar with the pen tool, when I select something, when I click and I put a point down, to make something rounded, I'm clicking and I'm holding and then I'm dragging to make sure that I can kind of arc this out. And if I want to, I can actually hold Alt and I can click these little points here and I can edit how that actually flows like that. And if I want to move a point, I can hold Control and I can reposition a point like that. So as I'm moving through here, that's how I am getting this the shape that I'm doing, like so. And I'm going to connect that right into there. I'm going to hold Control or hold Alt and drag this down just a little bit. I'm going to click this, and that works for me. I'm going to hit shape and I'm just going to apply that, and I can start building a little eye. Now what I've already done actually is I've done the same thing, and I've added some swirls and everything into the eye. So you can see how just using the pen tool like that can actually start to create something really cool. And I even added more colors and textures with clipping masks to really show you, if you want to take this beyond a logo, you can even add some really cool designs and textures into each individual layer. So you really, if you start doing this as a logo challenge, but maybe you're not a logo artist, you can turn this into an illustration or something equally cool. You really do not have to only stop where I stopped the challenge. You can always go on and create this more, or just morph it into something of your own design. Another thing that I did want to show, let's see, I've got maybe a minute and a half here that I do want to point out real quick is, first of all, maybe we can do it here. I'm going to quickly turn this into a smart object, and I'm going to first show, let's see, convert to smart object. I'm going to first show, if I come up here to image, adjustments, and I go to gradient map, that is how I would apply a gradient map if I decide I want more color in this. And I can come down here and I can click all kinds of blues and really add cool gradients to this. If that is something that you feel you want to do, it's up to you. So that's a cool thing that you can do. And then also, if I wanted to, I could select, let's see, if I hide all of this, for now. Let me group that and hide it. If I have this shape and I'd like to warp it, what I also can do is come up to edit and go to puppet warp, and you can see it adds this cool grid around here for my puppet warp. And if I place some pins, and I wouldn't do this if it's supposed to be a die shape, but if I place my pins here, perhaps you're doing something that has, you know, weirder edges or different elements that need to happen, and I come in here, I can actually start warping this around and really change the shape of whatever kind of object I'm trying to create. So that's also another option instead of just using shape tools and things like that. You can come up, you can change the expansion of the pixels. You notice that expanded it a little bit. You can add all different kinds of things. You can actually hide and unhide the mesh, do whatever you like. You can add more pins throughout everything and start really moving stuff around. It's up to you, but that is a great way to also warp a shape and change something. So that's what I have for you on creating shapes and jumping into logo design. Tomorrow we're going to be working on some more stuff related to branding for this exact same project. I can't wait to see you folks tomorrow, and I hope that you enjoyed this challenge. So until next time, folks, and please stick around for the next segment, because we do actually have Jason Levine with photo editing coming up right after me today, and you don't want to miss it. So I'll talk to you folks later. Adios, everyone.